Good evening to all of you. We move on tonight, this week actually, it may be evening for me, but this week. We move on then to another play, and that is Iphigeneia Aulis, written by Euripides. As you know, if you read it already, it's the chronology is different from the previous one. So in the previous one, in Aeschylus Agamemnon, we saw the aftermath of the sacrifice. So we know Iphigeneia has been sacrificed. Agamemnon comes back from the Trojan War, and he is murdered by his wife, uh, Clytemnestra. But now we go back to the beginning of the war. So prior to all the thousand ships who are about to go to Troy to get back Helen, we saw how Agamemnon is trying to decide, and at the same time, not only trying to decide, but is in doubt whether he should or not sacrifice his daughter. He decides to sacrifice her, then he comes back. He tries to uh, make his wife and his daughter return from coming towards him to the battlefield, not to the battlefield, to the place to Aulis, where they were getting ready to leave for Troy. Then he decides again to sacrifice her because he needs to do so for the army and so on. Then we have at the same time Achilles, who has been involved by Agamemnon without his knowledge in the whole affair, in the sense in which he lied to his wife. Agamemnon lied to his wife, telling her that Iphigenia will have to come there to be married to Achilles, the hero of the Greek army. And then when Achilles finds out, of course, he gets upset and so on. So this play, why do we talk about now about the sacrifice after we talked about the aftermath? So after we talk about Agamemnon going to the Trojan War and then coming back and being murdered by his wife, the reason why I chose to go this way is because Aeschylus writes before Euripides. So even if the chronology of the event is different, the time in which the writers write their plays is correct, so to say. So Aeschylus wrote first, Aeschylus wrote first, and then Euripides. And what we can see in Euripides is a new treatment of the myth. Spoiler alert: if you haven't read the book, you would find out now. He allows Iphigeneia to be sacrificed, but at the moment of the sacrifice, apparently, Iphigeneia disappears and is taken away by the gods, as Agamemnon says, and her place is taken by a deer. So the sacrifice itself does not get accomplished into the death of Iphigeneia. Even if Iphigeneia disappears, so Iphigeneia is no longer with her parents. It's almost as if she's taken away by the gods into the heaven of the gods, or into Olympus, or whatever she may be. And I will not get into details about how Euripides treats this event later in other tragedies, in which he actually has Iphigeneia at the temple of Artemis, where finally her brother comes. And anyway, there are some events taking place over there too. But I want to concentrate on some issues that have to do with this play, with this tragedy. And one of them is the situation in which Agamemnon finds himself. I mentioned before in one of the previous videos that Soren Kierkegaard talks about the possibility of understanding Agamemnon as a tragic hero. And he would be a tragic hero because he does something that goes against his will. And we can see in the play that he doesn't really want to sacrifice his daughter. And even if at the beginning he's apparently quite ready to do so, when he thinks more about that, he's sending somebody, the old man, he's sending him to make his wife avoid, to let his wife know that he should no longer come to the place where they were, so they would not end up sacrificing Iphigeneia. So he is, in some sense, he's divided because of his two roles, that of the father and that of the king of the army, the leader of the army. But at the same time, he's divided within his soul, because at times he seems to be ready to sacrifice, and at different times he seems to be quite against. And I mentioned Soren Kierkegaard, and so Kierkegaard talks about this idea that the tragic hero is someone who is completely against, he's acting against his will, or he's acting against things that are beneficial to him. but he does it for different reasons. He is a hero because he does it for the others. And we can see in this play, in Iphigeneia Aulis, we can see that the majority of the people around him want Iphigeneia to die. Achilles comes to Agamemnon's wife, to Clytemnestra, and he promises her that he would protect Iphigeneia. But at the same time, we see Odysseus, I was looking for his name, Odysseus and a mob of people coming towards them to take Iphigeneia, to sacrifice her. Menelaus wants to convince Agamemnon to sacrifice his daughter. Everybody seems to see that this act is the right act and pressure the daughter's father to do this abominable act. So those aspects show that he wants to he wants to sacrifice his daughter for his country or for the benefit of the people around him. And in the dialogue he has with Iphigeneia, and Iphigeneia then herself, when she accepts the sacrifice, although at the beginning she doesn't want to do it, she accepts it for the country, she accepts it for the people. So, we talked about the sacrifice, and we could say, man, this is crazy. How can we actually conceive even the idea that a parent sacrifices his daughter to go to war? And what kind of war? A war for taking back a woman who ran away from a husband with somebody else, or who was abducted, and it depends on how you can see the event. A war based on pride and of broken pride. Why would an innocent child suffer? Well, but what do you do when you are in a high position, as Agamemnon is, when everybody who is connected with you because of that position, and everybody who depends on you because of your position, wants you to do something that is against your own will? What is, and I emphasize this question, I specifically would like all of you to write about this idea in your comments. What is my moral duty in this context? Which of the two options, sacrificing Iphigeneia and not sacrificing Iphigeneia, is morally justified, taking into consideration all the other aspects that surround this decision? When you respond to this, consider what are the principles according to which you make a judgment. So why do you think that, for example, sacrificing Iphigeneia is the right thing to do? Why do you think not sacrificing Iphigeneia is the right thing to do? And how would you go about it if you were in Agamemnon's position and if you were pressured to sacrifice your daughter? So this is the video for this week. It's a shorter one, and it's only this video. Please do consider to respond to this final question about the ethical judgment that you can make regarding Agamemnon's action. Thank you very much. See you next week. And please, we've been now, I think, for 4 weeks or 5 weeks. Please do remember to contact me with any kind of questions you may have about the content and also about the course itself, about the organization. Take care. Bye.